Hello, this is David Schellenberg and Rachel Oigster, co-hosts of Democrats Abroad's Blue Vote Cafe podcast.
You can find all our episodes through democratsabroad.org or wherever you get your podcasts.
And now, back to the Veterans and Military Families Caucus podcast. Enjoy!
Everyone, welcome. My name is Key Evans. I live in Guatemala and I vote in New Mexico. Joining me today is Courtney Driver, who is the chair of the Georgia Veterans Military and Families Council. Also with us is Michael Ramos, the chair of the Global Veterans and Military Families Caucus for DA.
Hi, Key. Yep, pleasure to be with you here today. Just for the record, it is in the U.S., September 2nd, 2025. It is September 3rd here in Australia. And waking up to a great day, great conversation. Can't wait to speak with Courtney. Let's go ahead and get started. All right. Great to be here with Courtney Driver, one of the staples of Georgia, motivating veteran. We're going to have a quick chat. But first and foremost, Courtney, tell us who is Courtney Driver? What do you do? What do you like to do in terms of activism? Tell us about your military history, all that good stuff, so we get to know you.
Okay, so thank you so much, Michael and Key, for having me today. I'm so happy to be with you guys. So my name is Courtney Driver. I currently serve as the chair of the Democratic Party of Georgia's Veteran and Military Families Council. I've been here, I served as vice chair first, and then I moved into the chair role in, I want to say 2022. You know, that whole block is kind of a blur. We just went from campaign to campaign. So, but yeah, I'm happy to be in this role. We have a very large veteran population here in Georgia. As you know, we're home to over, I want to say now it's over 700,000 active duty and veterans. And so we're home to a lot of the really big military installations. Like I'm here in Warner Robins. We have Robins Air Force Base, which is, one of the largest bases here in Georgia. We have Fort Moore, Fort Stewart, Kings Bay Naval Base, Moody Air Force Base, you name it, we have it here. And so our military community is big. Is big here. The way I like to get involved is I like to I call myself kind of a connector of people. I know folks who help with benefits, helping people get their disability or get their percentages up. In Mableton, Georgia, our vice chair, Michael Owens, I don't know if you know Dr. Michael Owens, who's our vice chair. He's the first mayor of Mableton. They just opened up some temporary transitional housing for veterans up there. And so, just connecting people with resources is something I like to do because I have them, available to me. So I like to share and make sure everybody gets the support that they need.
I have a couple of questions for you. Now, you're a Marine, right?
Right. I'm sorry. I was supposed to say that. I got sidetracked. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I served in the Marine Corps. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I have a soft spot in my heart for all Marines.
And we appreciate that. We're
Yeah.
very Marine heavy here in Georgia in our leadership too. So we all would appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a vet. I'm a family member. But I have a specific question about Atlanta. We know that the Trump administration has been sending, we know what DC is like, and then evidently Chicago is next on the list, and other cities that have Black Democratic mayors, which Atlanta does with, I forgot his name.
Andre Dickens.
Yeah. And he looks like he's doing great things for the city. But should the current administration decide to send the National Guard into Atlanta, how would the citizens of, excuse me, specifically Atlanta, but all of Georgia and the National Guard view that?
Well, I mean, that's it. It's hard to say. I mean, I think that I hate to see our military being used as threats, to our community. We're supposed to protect and serve, not
Mhm.
patrol the streets, just at the leisure of the president. So I think with us having a pretty large active, military and veteran population, I mean, I think people are going to look at it as, them doing their job,
Okay.
what they've been told to do, but as far as, citizens, civilians, I hate to see, fear being brought on, by our military, I hope it doesn't come to that here.
So
I
do
really,
I.
I really hope not. But yeah, you never know with this administration, right? Every
Right.
day it's something.
Yeah. Atlanta is such a beautiful city. I love it. Um,
Yeah, it is.
Thanks, Courtney. I do have a few questions for you, but one of them I want to pass on from one of our members who's in Italy. Her name is Leani, and she wanted me to make sure to relay this question to you. So, how can civilian Georgia Democrats help with veterans and military families' issues in their local communities? And also, what do you suggest we can do from overseas? So that's a question from Leani to you. She's a Georgia voter.
Okay, well, I would say, we have some very important elections coming up. In 2026, we're reelecting Senator Ossoff, who, does a lot of great work for veterans, securing funding for various things. We have to keep him in office. It's very important to have someone there who is sympathetic to veterans' issues and will fight for them the way that he does, and along with Senator Warnock. So, Georgia is, I want to say ground zero for like voter suppression. There's always something they're trying to do. They have up their sleeve to keep our community from voting. And so, what I would say is, they're purging hundreds of thousands of people off of our voter rolls. So, what I would do first is make sure that your voter registration is still active. Because if you haven't voted, maybe in the last election, which I know it happens, if you're somewhere, if you're overseas, you never know. You might miss an election. There might be something. And so you might be one of those people who's on the chopping block, unfortunately. So I would definitely get the word out to family members, to your friends. Make sure they're checking their registration. Make sure that it's still active. And yeah, that's where I would start. And then, once we start getting out the vote for in 2026, with statewide elections, we'll be having regular phone banking, text banking, things like that that folks can, do remotely, so they can dial in, and connect with us and make calls to Georgia voters. That's what we'll have
Yeah,
going on.
yeah, thank you for that. Great response. I do have another follow-up question for you here, and I
Okay.
just want to take a step back for a minute, okay,
Yeah.
and just kind of look at the big picture. So, most Americans know that, Georgia is the home to so many important, American icons, right? And like you said, we got Senators Ossoff and, Warnock, and Stacey Abrams and John Lewis and, all these other monumental figures. So I guess can you talk a little bit about, like, what does Georgia mean to American democracy and, like, the home of civil rights and, just kind of the big picture? Why is Georgia so important?
Well, I think, we really are a battleground state, and I think especially our constituency group, as veterans, really plays a true, like, we're a make or break vote here. And so I think that people kind of saw how important we were in 2020, when Georgia went blue for Biden. And then, we went right into the runoff and got, secured 2 senators for the Senate majority. And so I think it really put us on I want to say a national stage, that showed, hey, like our voters can pull through. So we're hoping to do that again. We're hoping to, keep that Senate majority. And but it's going to take the work, and we're going to need a lot of help like we got back then. So.
And we will be right back in just a moment.
As veterans, we're no strangers to helping others.
That's what we were taught, service before self.
But we do have one question for the veterans listening.
When was the last time you reached out for help?
If you or someone you know needs resources, whether it's for stress, finances, employment, or mental health, don't wait. Reach out.
Find more information at va.gov/reach. That's va.gov/reach.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
And we're back. Let's continue the conversation with Courtney Driver from the Georgia Democratic Party VMF Council.
Okay, thank you. Do you know what the breakdown is in Georgia between Democrat, Republican, Independent voters? Any idea?
Like percentage-wise, not off the top of my head, no.
Yeah.
But I would say I think it's pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say like 40, 40 each around there. So I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sorry, I don't have those numbers, but I know it's pretty close. I mean, the problem is that we have Democratic vote, like we have the numbers, but we have so many things here that happen that Republicans are doing that keep us from the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
That keep folks, discouraged from showing up. There's always something, they always have, like every year, they always have some legislation, that passes through the House that's like, okay, we're going to make it harder for you to vote this time this way and this way. So it's constantly something. But, I think this way it's very important for us to keep that momentum. I know people get voter fatigue. It seems like it's always an election happening. We just had special elections. It's like, oh my gosh, what are you guys knocking on my door for about this time? But we've learned every election really matters. I mean, look where we are now, so it's like we can't afford to sit on the sidelines. Democracy works when we work,
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very important for us to keep showing up.
Yeah. Those of us who live abroad are really facing some problems. We could lose our right to vote unless we, fly back to our home state, register to vote, come home to wherever we live, and then for every election in our state or, federal election, we would have to fly back to our home state. So we definitely feel voter suppression. Plus, many post offices around the world have stopped sending mail to the United States. It started out no packages, but now it's down to no envelopes, and hopefully we can get our embassies to send our ballots by diplomatic pouch, but that's iffy too, and it takes a long time. So, yeah.
How can we help with those efforts? How can we in the States, be useful to our voters who are abroad?
Yeah, I can take this one.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, okay, so the reason why all of the foreign postal services are canceling packages and some of them now letters, such as France and the Philippines, for example, as of right now, no letters to the US, is because of the tariffs. So, because of Trump's, infatuation with tariffs. So, to answer your question, the solution is to elect Democrats, right?
Right, right.
So, I mean, we are just moments away from, I don't know if you remember the SAVE Act from a couple months ago that the House of Representatives passed, And it's just, is one vote away from becoming law before we have to, like what Key said, show up in person, passport, all this other documentation. If you're married and you changed your last name, birth certificate, like I live in Australia, right? Like I have to do all that just to vote. So yeah, that's just ridiculous. But okay, let me ask you another question here as we get ready to wrap up here soon. At the beginning of our chat here, you had mentioned all of the different military installations in Georgia. And, you're absolutely right. There are so many of them, Army, Marines, and, Air Force and whatever. There's such a huge military connected community. Like you said, 700,000 or something like that. So, we have our own, within Democrats Abroad and the VMF caucus with us, we have our own strategies and so forth when we try to, get out to vote for military connected voters who are ACONUS. But what about you guys? Do you have any like tips and tricks for, helping pump out that military vote? Or do you have any challenges and barriers, you'd like to talk about, or anything like that as it relates to military voting in Georgia?
Yeah, sure. I think, talking about a barrier, I think there's always a barrier of the data, just of identifying veterans. Like, I think that's always been an issue. And so when we came into this role, with my chair, vice chair, it was four of us, and we said we have a large ground to cover. I mean, what can we do? And our immediate strategy became targeting 45 to 50-mile radius around those installations, because that's where a majority of the veterans, active duty, military family, that's where they live for the most part. So we targeted those heavily populated areas because it was easy for us to identify. So that's what we did. We did, a tour. You can't go directly on the base, but we would go to, just different businesses, veteran-owned businesses, host events. We would, contact someone, in that area who's, well-known, and we'd have them, help us put together an event, with speakers. We would bring candidates out. We would give away things. Who doesn't like free stuff, right? So that's how we would get the vote out. I mean, we would just go to those areas around those communities around the bases, because we know that's where we're going to catch all, instead of trying to go down our roster and pick them out one by one. Like, we just hit those heavily populated areas, and that's where we have the most success. So we still use that strategy to this day. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for all that work. And you mentioned something about making calls. Democrats Abroad also does that for certainly all federal elections and even some state elections. So we've got your back too. And I want to thank you for being here. It's been enlightening, and I know I enjoyed it, and I'm sure Michael did too.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Courtney. Yeah, I really appreciate you chatting with us.
I appreciate you having me. I appreciate everything you guys do. When we have our big elections, we can always depend on you guys to help us out over here in little old Georgia.
Yeah.
And we're happy to do the same anytime. Just call me up.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you, Courtney and Michael. That was a great discussion. I know I learned a lot, and I hope all of you that are listening to this podcast learned something about Georgia and the Democratic Party and the Georgia Veterans and Military Families Council. Thank you so much for being here.
In your heart, silver wings on your chest.